Hi there, and welcome to another edition of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast, which is brought to you by fans for fans, where the content is free. It is a bonus episode of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast tonight. We're having a wee look at the Hibs game tomorrow at Easter Road. As I say all the time, guys, it's not just the pod we do here at Gersnet. We've got the website there. We get match interviews, match previews, match reports, all that kind of stuff. There's a history archive on there as well, and obviously Frankie's got his social media, all that kind of stuff. If you like what you do here at Gersnet, please give the YouTube channel a wee subscribe, a wee like, wee comment, put the word out there on social media, let people know that we're about and what we do. I'm joined again tonight by Alex Anderson. We're like the ugly sisters that keep on turning up on Gersnet at the moment. How are you? How's your Tuesday night going?
Absolutely fine, sir. Yes, I just this is my kind of time to be doing a pod. I like you moving it ahead just so you can get me after my afternoon nap and before I get my dinner and get a bit grumpy after that. I was just having I was actually, we're on the tee just to prove that we're old guys.
Yeah.
And I'm actually running it. I said, "Oh, nice cup."
You like that?
Aye, that's class. That's quality. I'm running out of Tetley's. And I thought, I know, I can't start another teabag conversation on this pod. Because between that. I think the other main topic at the beginning of these pods is the balding, the baldness amongst us all.
Yeah,
I'm kind of top of the league.
Getting there.
And I thought this is serious old man stuff, but yet here we are.
I was having a wee look at
it's a tea time special.
When I bed at 8:30, I was having a wee look at the sort of some of the analytics on YouTube and going by the age group that were attracted. We're very much the Rangers podcast, I would say. I don't think anyone under the age of 35 was interested in what we do.
I thought this podcasting and being on social media would make me a young hip dude again, But even Rangers Twitter, they're all talking about the Beatles. That was like 50 years ago. This documentary, it's just not working at all, mate. It's just not good.
On that, have you been watching it?
No, I'm not sorry, I know to say to a Beatles fan that you're not a massive Beatles fan is tantamount to a massive insult. I'm sorry, and I know that they've basically, if I'm a music fan at all, I must be a Beatles fan because they invented everything. I get that, but no, I haven't been watching it, I must admit.
Terribly tea and no liking the Beatles, Alex. This could be a very short pod tonight, I'm telling you.
Parkhead season ticket, and that's me. It's a full deal, mate.
I tried to watch some of it on Friday, and I had a bank holiday on Friday, so I was sitting watching it. And my only complaint is it's long. And there's no narration. There's no it's just like it is literally just footage of them, recording an album and preparing for a show. And I mean, it's interesting in it, but it's it's like 2.5 hours per episode, and there's 3 episodes. It's heavy going. But anyway, right before we go on about the trip to Easter Road tomorrow. Big game under the lights, first game in December, which as we spoke about on Sunday, is it's a full-on month, a lot coming our way, and it'll probably be a pivotal month in terms of whether we're successful or not in retaining the championship. But before we get onto that, Alex, I thought we'd just have a wee discussion about some of the stuff that came out at the AGM today. It all seemed fairly positive, and I would assume that your Celtic bloggers were very disappointed with some of the stuff that came out. But I mean, that's not to say, especially in the financial stuff, that there's not stuff that raises an eyebrow and maybe a wee bit concerned. But overall, I just feel that the people that we have in charge, are trustworthy, and I certainly feel. I'm not saying that they're beyond criticism, not by any stretch of the imagination. I think there are certain things we've got wrong over the last few years, but it does feel like the club are in sort of safer hands now than we have been previously. Like the sort of main things that came out, I was sort of coming through it before we came on air. Stuart Robertson has informed the shareholders at the AGM that the 7.5 million funding gap that was announced in the accounts recently, that's already been plugged. Apparently that's already been filled, and there's no issues there. John Bennett provided details of the loans situation that are available at the club and the rates of interest, and again that all seems fairly positive. So on the finance stuff, I know it's not a brilliant picture. Having said that, there was this sort of situation again today where they reiterated that there's no need to sell players, which I find a wee bit strange given the £23 million loss we announced. but it seems that the board are confident in the way that we're going, and I believe Stuart Robertson used the phrase, "We're approaching financial stability."
That's it, and that's what we want to hear. And I know any time, as you're implying there, any time you say anything about Rangers and finances, anything around our board, whoever the board is, you're going to get it from two sides. As of 2012, you're going to get it from two sides. You're going to get it from Rangers fans who are saying you don't care enough. We all learned the lessons of 2012. We need to be studying every single kind of edict that comes out of the boardroom. We need to be getting right into every AGM. And you're going to have your Celtic fans, the more paranoid Celtic fans, or the more kind of one-eyed fans of other clubs who seem more obsessed with their finances than we do. They're kind of laughing at you and saying, if you're in any way relaxed about the finances at Ibrox, you're asking for trouble. I mean, there's a lot of now the kind of clickbait age of media that we live in now. What was formerly the kind of mainstream media, is a lot of punters in that are doing the same. A lot of the main actors in that are doing the same thing now as well. So you're scared to say what I'm about to say, which is it all seemed okay by me. I'll throw in all those caveats there. I acknowledge that with recent history, you'd be daft not to, but even the fact it's in the Clyde Auditorium, Colin. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
We're no some marquee in the middle of the park.
So they can get near them, yeah.
And it was like a terrible concert at a garden centre with a really small, really wet, really angry crowd, want to get on the pitch and kill the directors. I've said before on here, Colin, my kind of general feeling just now is that in 2012, we just needed somebody to get us going again, anything. And we got Cowboys. We got guys coming out there saying, I love the Old Firm games, and it's like, what one in particular, mate? Oh, the one that won us a Super Bowl. That Ali McCoist, do you know any goals he scored, mate? No. And then we got, and now I think we're in with proper fan owners who really have the club at heart. And I think Dave King, for me, was a kind of transition. I think Dave's a bit of a cowboy himself, but also he's got the club at heart, and Dave King probably a big part in getting it was a massive part in getting his Steven Gerrard just through working his magic when he's down at Anfield, whining and dining. So you have to be realistic. But I think we're now in a situation where we look good in terms of who's running the club. I do have faith in them. But there's people out there probably thinking that's that guy that had total faith in David Murray, so
I don't want to say that.
Yeah, there's caveats applied to everything I'm saying. But I think we've got even just the 7.5 million funding, that being sorted out at a preferable rate. The rate of interest is going down. It's in the hands of people who are not going to come battering my door down and want us to sell off the assets to get it back. And this is where I don't want to get into the David Murray thing, but I'm already at that stage where I'm grateful to these guys for bringing us 55. And I look at the people, and you can measure that against, well, David Murray brought us, European final and all sorts of titles and what have you, but almost killed the club. So it doesn't work out just because you've won a title or whatever. You should be given undiluted kind of praise and faith to certain directors. But when we've seen the characters that have been in since 2012, we know we've got a nose for it now as a support, I would say. Who we can trust, and these guys just now are doing a great job. And like the 23.5 million loss, well, that's just, you can't write that off, you can't sniff at it, you can't be unconcerned about it. But it's COVID. We've got big expenses. We're a massive club. We try to get into Champions League. We get a stadium that has 50,000 people. That means big expenses. It means big losses when something like COVID hits. And I think proportionately it's hit everybody else in football to the same extent.
Well, apparently it hits Celtic more than any other club, remember. You need to bear that in mind. That's
it. But there's not that easy, the easy narrative, when your kind of tabloid journalism is just looking for knee-jerk, kind of basically shit-stirring stuff. It's easy to go with the Rangers financial calamity narrative, dragged on for 2012 and say, that Celtic are, in comparison, they're the guys that have got everything under control. So I would say they're just nothing majorly worrying me. Always concerns, but I'm just quite comfortable with the fact that it wasn't all over Sky Sports News. It wasn't a massive event. It wasn't controversial. It was just questions getting asked, questions getting answered, and we move on.
No questions around, I don't know, Bertie Ault's obituary in the Herald. Bizarre.
I saw the best one I saw on Twitter the day was guys say, why are our directors still referring to Celtic as the same club? You know, when we all know they died in 1994. That was quite good. Just this is the questions I want answered. You know, I've been to the AGM once. You know, I've never been a shareholder. A guy out there I've not seen for a while. I'll just in case I get him into trouble, I'll just say Derek. He was a shareholder and he sent me his pass and got me in one day. Yeah, I think it was before 2012. And it was very interesting, you know, but it was nothing wild like what we hear coming from the other side of the city, you know. And I get that there's a case for saying we should be, you know, wild. We should, you know, as a sport after what happened in 2012, we should be but standing outside with placards, but we're fine.
I always think an AGM you should be focusing on your own issues, or you know what I mean.
Exactly.
I feel the AGM across the other side of the city focuses on very much things that aren't directly relating to Celtic. One other thing on the AGM that we'll cover it before we move on to tomorrow night's game. Stuart Robinson sort of indicated that they were looking to improve the matchday experience for supporters with disabilities, and even went as far as admitting that, you know, the club, and I quote them here, haven't covered themselves in glory on this issue for some time. I have to be honest. I mean, I'm in the governing year. I'm not even entirely sure where the disabled section is at Ibrox, because I mean, it used to be back in the sort of 80s and 90s. You used to see like all the wheelchairs on the side in front of the enclosure and stuff like that, and you knew they were there. So I'm not even sure where they are now, but I have seen, like, on social media and stuff like that, a lot of fans who use those facilities complaining that it's just not good enough. And it's something for a big club, you know, that is pretty poor, and it's good to see that they're addressing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm ashamed to say, same as yourself, mate. I've not had a chance. Number one, I'm ashamed I've not had a chance to really look into it since this has come up today. But number two, I mean, I haven't missed a league game. I mean, we missed the whole of last season, obviously, because of COVID. But other than that, I've not missed a league game at Ibrox for like 20 years. And I cannot tell you, same as yourself, I'm thinking, I remember it being done at near the tunnel, actually, kind of either side of the tunnel. I don't know and I was in the enclosure when we first, you know, talking of financial trauma, when we first, after 2012, the first season back, when we started back in 2012, I didn't know who was giving my money to, you know, so I just didn't buy a season ticket. I spent the whole of that first 6 months of that first season just going around the different parts of the ground, you know, just for a laugh. And then I got a half season ticket in December. I got it for the enclosure, the East enclosure. And I can't even remember then. I'm now up in the main stand. Before that, for like, you know, God, best part of 15 years, I was up in the back of the Govan. I cannot remember. I seem to have seen more boys in wheelchairs than that when I was in the enclosure. And it's bad enough as an able-bodied fan, if you can get up the kind of back of the enclosure, the views are great down there. Great, yeah. I don't know, maybe over in the west enclosure, they go maybe a bit further up. I'm embarrassed that I can't actually remember, because apart from anything else, the number of times I've nearly ended up in a wheelchair coming out of the main stand after a game and walking up Edmondson Drive back towards the Brimley, my car's parked over that way. And the wheelchair boys don't mess about. You know, if you're on your phone, like I've been a few times, and they're going to cross that road, they're going to just batter you right out the way. So I've got a funny feeling. I've nearly been hit a few times there. I've got a funny feeling they might be in that area. But I always think about Sheffield United, Bramall Lane. I think I saw on the television 10 years ago. I don't know if it's still the case, but it was at least 10 years ago, which puts a bit of shame on Rangers. They had a great section from what I would imagine anyway. You know, I need to get word of mouth from my wheelchair user. But it was going up ramps, and it was really kind of like halfway up the big cop they've got behind the goal. Yeah. At one end at Bramall Lane, and between the main stand, the stand that's kind of opposite the cameras, and it was kind of like halfway up, and it was in the corner, and so there was nobody in front or behind them, and it was a great level, and it was a great view. And when you look at the likes of the Club 72, we didn't mind putting that wee ledge in the front of the front of the back of the Govan, now the Sandy Jardine, to accommodate
that's just
a bit more money. I mean, I think we need to get some way to get, you know, all four stands should be a way of getting the wheelchair people, the disabled fans up there into that, you know, that kind of middle of the stand to get the best possible view.
it seems to me that the corners would be a good. I mean, I don't know the sort of the diagnostics and what's required, but it seems to me that you go in at ground level at the corners and you come out raised. You come out, you know, in a raised arena looking down on the pitch. So maybe the corners, but it's just the fact that it's taken so long, and it seems to me, sorry, that it has been an issue that has been raised at previous AGMs, and obviously with the Cowboys in charge and all that kind of thing. But I was reading it thinking, well, that's good news, but it is also slightly disappointing that it's taken this long. I'll tell you something else. I mean, I know that in terms of priorities, it comes way, way behind the needs of supporters with disabilities, but the state of the toilets in the Golden Stand, and I'm assuming it's the same for most parts of the ground, that they are absolutely atrocious. And I'll tell you this much, like if we ever reach the stage where mandatory mask wearing is not required at big events, I'll still be taking a face mask for when I go into that toilet, because it's honestly, it's bouthing, it's absolutely bouthing, and it's long overdue. Needing, I mean, even the concourses, you know, and I think again, Stuart Robertson acknowledged that there's parts of the stadium that have been left to sort of just rack and ruin really under Murray towards the end of his tenure. So that there is, you know, and that's infrastructure. That's I mean, everybody thinks that, you know, money just gets spent on players and all that kind of thing. But it's not. You know, you need to maintain your infrastructure, your stadium, training facilities, all that kind of stuff, and all that costs money. But it's good to see that in terms of what was talked about today, in terms of, you know, providing better facilities with supporters with, you know, disabilities and wheelchair use and all that kind of stuff. It's good to see that they're addressing it, but a wee bit disappointing that it's taken so long. Right, on to tomorrow, big night, Easter Road, under the lights. As I say, the first game in December. We kind of spoke on Sunday night on the pod that it really is a pivotal month. You know, I think there's 8 games in total, 7 league games. All right, the Europa League game against Lyon, I might get a game. You know what I mean? Because it's a rubber duck. I'm going to write a wee email to the club saying, you know, we spot on the bench for the last 10 minutes.
You'll still be ahead of Brandon Barker. You know,
probably, I've got Matt Hellman as well. So I mean, it's good that we're qualified for the Europa, because it means we don't have that extra pressure, and that's a game where we can maybe rest players. But it's still going to be a difficult month, as I say, starting off tomorrow at Easter Road. Now, I mean, I know they've just beat us in the semi-final there, and they beat us quite comprehensively, especially in the first half. You know, they gave us a bit of going over. But a recent record against Hibs is tremendous. I mean, for all Porteous was having a go at Steven Gerrard, you know, his wee interview clip about do I look happy, do I look settled, all that kind of stuff. He never beat Steven Gerrard. Hibs never beat a Steven Gerrard team in the time that he was here. I think the first season he was here, we got a number of draws, but outside that, you know, we've been pretty convincing against it. And at Easter Road as well, you know, we went there a couple of years ago, 3-0, went there last year, 1-0. I think the closest the game was that 2-each game last year, when I think they were ahead twice, but they managed to claw it back. So, I mean, I know they've just beat us, but it's a ground that in recent years we've done quite well at, and something that should give us a bit of confidence going forward. Yeah,
I would hope so. I think it's a bit like Aberdeen in that sense, where the legend is they're always up for it against us. You know, they always raise their game, blah, blah, blah. But when you look back at the record, as you say, we've got a great record at Pittodrie in recent years as well. And we've got they actually do more damage to us at Ibrox. Hibs haven't recently. The first season they come back up from the Championship, the season after us, they beat us both games at Ibrox. You know, those were insane. And I think they did a late equaliser against us, kind of just at Christmas time, kind of Boxing Day-ish, in Gerrard's first season at Ibrox. But that was almost like the kind of intake of breath before we went and won our first Old Firm game since coming back up. So we've got a good record against them. And I thought it was quite kind of poetic, or kind of, you know, a darkly poetic that we, you know, our last game without Steven Gerrard in charge was the 5-each, the crazy, stupid 5-each under Jimmy Nick at Easter Road.
So we should have won that one as well.
We should have won that as well.
Yeah.
And the first one without him, after he's left us, Stevie G, was that absolute abomination of a performance at Hampden. You know, where again Hibs have went same that day Easter Road, they went 3-0 up. You know, but we didn't pull it back this time at Hampden. Yeah, the boy Porteous, I think, kind of sums it up. The guy's dangerous. You know, I can't even really laugh at Porteous, because I feel And this sounds terrible, but I feel there's something kind of not quite right there emotionally with the boy. You know, could be a really decent player. Is a decent player, sorry, but I think he can. This kind of, they're only really out to kind of get us, and making these jokes about Steven Gerrard after he's left. You know, it didn't even kind of make sense. It was kind of worrying, you know. And he's
and Emma Dodd's kind of put him in his place a wee bit, right?
Did you look at
because you know Steven Gerrard was like, do I look happy? Do I look unhappy? Do I look unsettled? Well, don't ask stupid questions. And he quoted that, and Emma Dodds was like, but it wasn't a stupid question. And he was like, aye, fair enough. You know what I mean? Because it was Emma Dodds that conducted the interview with Steven Gerrard when he said that. So it was also making a wee bit of statement. That's what he had a wee bit as well. I think that's her coming back saying, well, whoa, wait a minute. No, I'm not having that.
And it's the getting a framed picture of himself, you know, standing over a failed Alfredo Morelos, who 9 times out of 10 takes him to the cleaners, but it's his tackles. The game we won there 1-0 last season. The other game at Easter Road last season, we won 1-0, December, January, right in the middle of that fantastic run. The kind of run we're looking to go on, you know, tomorrow night. He put in a few tackles that night that were psychotic. You know, they were total leg breakers, and they went unnoticed with the referee. He's just thrown himself in every time. And I don't like the way that the narrative around him from Hibs is kind of supporting them. That tackle we put in this season when they lost the game at Ibrox, when they were doing well, he's basically, there's a good chance we only won 2-1. We got our goals from late on in the second half. He's kind of cost them the game there. Yeah, you know, and it's. I mean, we know the one on Barisic, the tackle on Koulibaly. He's out of order. You know, it's dangerous stuff, and it's just not. But I think when you look at the narrative around Morelos, which is slowly dying down in Scottish football, but the mainstream media narrative around Morelos for being a bit huffy and not really maybe not tracking back as much as he should, compared to this boy who's out there trying to break legs basically and being proud of it. It's quite worrying. But we're giving him too much attention. It's a big game for us, and I just feel as if this is the moment we find out, has it just been kind of new manager bounce the last couple of games under Gio, or are we here to, you know, is he going to get us going fully again? There's still been wee moments in these last 2 games. We've taken the kind of foot off the gas. We've looked a bit kind of lacking in concentration. We could potentially have thrown the games away. We haven't, you know, and it's been great. But I think we're either going to, you know, we're looking to see us move up a gear again tomorrow. And you're hoping that it's if there's one place we're going to go and we're going to think we are the real deal and we've done everything we need to do, and you'll get found out, I think it will be Easter Road.
On that point about Gio, I mean, his press yesterday morning, he kind of emphasised that again, that sort of thing that you thought about there, and he mentioned it on Sunday immediately after the game. You know, that we dominated the first half pretty much. You know, for the first half hour, it was 2-0 going on 3-4. And then we kind of allow them back into it. And then it takes a great sort of save from McGregor to stop it going 2 each. I mean, we totally control the second half. I mean, I can't think of a chance that what we had in the second half. But he was sort of really irritated, it seemed to me, that we never put the game to bed sooner. You know, we need to kill teams off. And he was sort of going on about that yesterday as well in his press. So he sort of mentioned it twice. And it's maybe something that, as you say, he's noticed already, that when we're strong, but there's these moments of slackness that need to go. And when we are strong, we need to take our chances and punch games.
Yes, and I think I love his patter, and I'm conscious of not trying not to be a kind of Celtic acolyte for Ange Ball straight away and going all in. But it's really weird what's happened with me with Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. I wasn't 100% enthused when he was mooted as the kind of number one candidate to take over from Steven Gerrard. But I think looking back on it, you know, and this now seems totally hypocritical because we've had a couple of good results in his first 2 games. I think I was reacting against the reaction that he was getting from Rangers. Too many people seem to be too enthusiastic about his appointment. And I think that in itself was a kind of psychological thing, a kind of transference that football fans tend to do, is we don't want to acknowledge the hurt that we feel for Steven Gerrard leaving. You know, and I think, by the way, that bled into Connor Golson's interview at Hampden after the semi-final. He didn't want to be, it's all about Steven Gerrard. Like we should have been able to win this game on our own without that manager. Yeah. And I feel as fans, we did that as well. as a fan base. It was, right, here we go, straight away. They're kind of celebrating the appointment of Giovanni as if this was something to kind of really get behind, almost like we'd won something. And I'm thinking, no, that's an overreaction. It's a good appointment. It's a solid appointment. But now that I've seen, I bumped into you after the game against Sparta on Thursday, and you could tell straight away, I was like, this is amazing, this is great. You know, and you were kind of, but we've still got a few, obviously you're totally positive because we've won, but it was like me, I was the guy who's overreacting, you know, and I felt, talking to other Rangers fans, the same thing. I seem to be more enthusiastic, and I hope I'm not getting too carried away. But straight away, he's stopped us conceding the first goal. He's got us going 2 goals in front in both games and winning both games by 2 goals. He's got, I mean, a lot of Rangers fans, you were slagging Morelos, you were slagging McGregor, they're kind of bitching at each other now because the two of them have had great. But at Hampden, the two of them were not good. At Hampden, that semi-final, the two of them were not good. And straight away, under Giovanni, McGregor is making world-class saves again. Both games, against Sparta, against Livingston, and crucial world-class saves. Not just, showboating or whatever, that's a bonus. It's like, we were at a stage in both those games where one more goal conceded would kill us. So
the one against Sparta, especially, that would have killed us. You know what I mean?
So we're coming through tension there, like we didn't do when we were 1-0 up against Hearts at Ibrox, 1-0 up against Motherwell at Ibrox this season, and not getting that second goal cost us 2 points in each of those games. We didn't carry it through. So they've come up against that kind of tension, that kind of wobble again in both these games. Sparta didn't get that one goal that would have put us into the Conference League. Levy didn't get that one goal that would suddenly see us chucking away a 2-goal lead before half-time and giving Celtic a boost when they're playing at 3 o'clock. So, to be honest with you, we were actually on a trend before Gio arrived where we were due to lose 4 goals on Sunday. Do you know what I mean? We lost 1 goal to Motherwell, beat them 6-1. Then we lost 2 goals to Ross County, beat them 4-2. We're losing 3 goals to get out the cup to Hibs at Hampden. So, I mean, it would have been a hard sell in the post-match press conference. We said, hey, 3 each draw, we're doing better, But I think we need to look at how bad things will become. We're starting to become in certain aspects of the Rangers play this season, and how he's kind of instantly improved it. And I like the fact that he varies it, Colin. He's I don't know if it's just because the Dutch are kind of, the stereotype of the Dutch is they're all tactically really aware, but maybe it carries more belief when it's coming from a Dutch management team. But the players are they're varying it within the system that Steven Gerrard had laid down. He's not varying it too much, but then he's varied it within he's varied from game to game. He played a different system. It looked like 4-1-4-1 to me at times on Sunday. Yeah. After the kind of 4-2-3-1 against Sparta. And then he's varied it.
I thought it looked like 4-4-2 at one point. I thought it was 4 and it was a diamond and then the 2 up top at one point.
Exactly. It's that lovely thing, but you can't really tell 100%, which means the opposition can't really tell. The opposition are a bit cleverer than me watching the telly, but you can't really tell 100%. That's a good thing. And I think he varied it again within the game. Notice this thing of bringing Patterson on now to kind of shore things up on the right-hand side, but also to give the opposition left-back suddenly a different problem to face altogether. If he had you, who's slow but skillful, to get Patterson, who's skillful and fast, and he was linking up well with Tav a few times on Sunday as well. But I think that we just look more kind of elastic and malleable, if you like, in the way we're going to set ourselves out, and he'll just do what needs to be done. And I'm actually, what I'm trying to get to is I'm excited about tomorrow night. I'm actually just excited just to see how we're going to set out, because it's becoming really interesting. And when I get excited about Rangers, things usually start going wrong.
Don't say that. Don't jinx things.
Just jinx me.
In terms of the squad, there was a wee update yesterday at his presser. No fresh injuries from Sunday, which is always good when you're coming off that surface, because it's not unusual for us to come off that and someone's got a wee pool somewhere. And Kemar Roof, apparently he was getting assessed today and could be in the squad tomorrow. There was a wee update in Hollander as well. Apparently he's back out running, he's on the pitch running and stuff like that. Should return to full training later on this month, which is obviously good news, especially defensively, given the way we've been playing of late. In terms of Kemar Roof, I mean, Hollander's an easy one for me. If he's in that back four, I think he improves that back four. And I think he also improves Connor Goldson, if you know what I mean. I think maybe part of the issue with Connor Goldson is he's had so many different partners this season. And I also think there's been a breakdown in the relationship between him and Tavernier. There's just not the same the amount of times I see, especially where I sit in the Governor, the amount of times Conor Golson looks out to give it to Tavernier and then just changes his mind and comes in again. And you just kind of wonder, and the amount of times the opposition come close to scoring, they too nip at one another quite a lot. So, I mean, I might be wrong, I might be speculating, but it does seem like that to me. But I do think if Hollander comes back in the team, Goldson instantly becomes a better player. You know, I think he becomes a little bit more relaxed. So that's an easy one. In terms of Roof, though, I think that he'll be an interesting option for Van Bronckhorst, I think, because, you know, it's another person challenging for that, because Roof can play in that number 9 spot. He's a harder worker than Morelos. He's actually, I'm not quite sure now, but the last time I checked, his goal scoring ratio per game was actually higher than Morelos. It's just getting him on the park. You know, it's obviously because he suffers from injuries quite a lot. But as an option for Van Bronckhorst and what that would offer him in terms of formations and stuff like that, I'm really keen to see Ruth back in the team, because I want to see how Van Bronckhorst is going to use him.
Yes, and I think you've got an equal intelligence there as well. You've got a super intelligent manager and management team. And in Kemar Roof, I think you've got a player who knows exactly how to give them what they're looking for. I think he's a really, really smart player, as well as incredibly skillful. And you're right, he just goes under the radar sometimes. He's goal scorer, and the way he scores goals. Apparently this boy Kyogo at Celtic had scored the first ever chested goal seen in world football this season up at Pittodrie, and I seem to remember, you know, the team Kyogo plays for conceding a chested goal to Kemar Roof in a match last season at Ibrox.
I tell you this much, Kemar Roof never had all the time that Kyogo had to follow the cross. You know, it was basically hit right at him and he had to react and change the direction.
He's sharp as a tack, Colin, and the thing for me is, I think our performance on Sunday was summed up by Hadji's crap Rabona. Hadji's performance as well. The thing I found most exciting on Sunday was the Glenn Kamara on his own. Glenn Kamara sitting it, and it was like, usually he's the safety net. You know, he's in there. You've got the double pivot, the sitting two, the holding two midfielders. But Glenn Kamara was on his own on Sunday. It was good, gave Steve Davis a rest. But it was like, I don't know if this is part of Conor Golson's problems on Sunday, maybe adjusting, apart from the fact he's playing on plastic that's got snow and tappy and ice underneath it. But the ball's coming over the top. I think he'd been told, basically, see if you need that sideways ball, that safety, that outlet that Davis and Kamara give each other, just give it to Conor Golson instead, because he comes up, he's comfortable on the ball. You know, and it made us suddenly, we have to go backwards or we have to go forward, but we have to be doing something. I remember being on like the 100th pod last season, 100 Gersnet pod Sunday show, and it was after the 0-0 at Livingston last season. Yeah. And I would say Glenn Kamara is just doing that sideways pass, and if they're looking for 8-10 million offers are coming in for him, just take one of them just now. You know, guys, I mean, it's just, he's Rolls Royce. That's what I mean about, you know, my judgment's always 100% wrong, but I thought we get the best out of him on Sunday there, and that's our second best result out of our last 4 at Almondvale. Just with this kind of go forward, it's like more like a safety catch than a safety, but take the safety catch off, just go forward, get that ball moved forward. And the 2 goals we scored in the first half, the movement to one side of the pitch to the other. I mean, if you look back at Morelos is involved a lot more than we realised at first in both goals. And I think Alfie, when you see him in highlights format, he actually did a lot more than I realised at first. But the only problem I've got is, does he play well with Kemar Roof? Because I say Hadji on Sunday summed it up for me in that he was skillful, his ball control was fantastic, he was dominating that side of the park for us, but it was just the finish, just couldn't get the finish. And I think sometimes we're trying to make, we play so kind of intricately and magically in the build-up that we forget how to actually just put the thing in the back of the bloody net. You know, that's a slight on Livingston. They were defending really well, but if we get Jermaine Defoe's now back as an out-and-out striker, he's not doing his coaching. We've got Kemar Roof as well. I think we can start getting the finishing sorted. And then the only problem we've got is a problem that a team like us, any team with decent players should love, is that our main problem is when the opposition lump the ball up the park. You know, it falls in that kind of sweet spot for them, that kind of inside forward position, and it's caused a lot of confusion for us this season. You know, between our fullbacks and our centre halves. But that should be a problem that we should be able to sort out, no problem, you know, really, really easily. It's a problem you should, as I say, you should actually enjoy. if that's the best thing the opposition can throw at you. So if we get that sorted out and we've got our strikers back, it should be good going forward into this really busy month.
In terms of Hibs form, and again, this is another thing to make us feel quite positive, and because Easter Road is one of those grounds you cannot, it's like Tynecastle, Tannadice, Pittodrie. It's always about it's could be a bit tight. But in terms of Hibs form at the moment, they've won 1 in the last 6 the league games. That was against 10-man St Johnstone. They were 1-0 down and sort of squeaked it in the last sort of 10-15 minutes. They've only scored like 4 goals in those 6 games. They're not a team in form now. Everyone will point to the semi-final result, but we should be looking at this team and saying, you know what, they are not a team in form. They are bottom of the form league at the moment. They're rock bottom. Livingston are higher up that form league. I think they're sitting 3rd or 4th at the moment. And went over there and turned them over fairly well. So it's this kind of thing that we need to play the team and not the occasion, if you know what I mean. No, don't get into this, it's Easter Road, it's Hibs at Easter Road. Just play that team and just say to yourself, this team have won 1 game in 6, and it took that team being down to 10 men for them to win that 1 game. This team are not a good team.
Tell you, Colin, I was glad Hibs won on Saturday, especially winning the way they did, because it's like, again, it's the Aberdeen thing. It's part superstition, kind of black superstition in my part, but it's also, I think it bears analysis. These teams, if they're doing what they're supposed to do for their level, which is beating everybody else, and then the old firm are a free hit, they tend to be, when they come to play us, they kind of realise 20 minutes, half an hour in, we've been putting too much into the previous games, beating Livingston. Hibs won 2-0 at Livingston, I think, this season. We see when they're not playing well, see when they're not doing well against everybody else. I feel as if, because we are a free hit, it lets a team that's maybe getting under pressure see a chance to impress their fans instantly. And I think when you're not been playing well, this is actually what I hope happens with Rangers this season. When as a team, as a club, you've not been playing well, you've been getting kind of bad results. I think when you start going on a run, or when you're having a good night or you're having a good game, you find all the energy that you weren't using, when you were playing badly. And I think that's what happens a lot of times when we're playing the likes of Aberdeen, the likes of Hibs. If they've been on a bad run, they suddenly raise their game against. That's where you get the whole myth about them raising their game against us. It's not a myth. It happens, and that's their prerogative. So in many ways, I was glad, because when we played them at Hampden, they hadn't played in like the best part of a month. When we beat them at Ibrox, they were unbeaten. We were the first team to beat them this season. When we played them at Ibrox, first team to beat them domestically. And I think they are a good team. I think Jack Ross is positioning himself for the Celtic job. And I always knew we need to beat us. He needs to beat Celtic. And I'm hoping he does it, obviously, in the League Cup final. And by that time, Big Ange is maybe his coat will be a shaky peg, kind of early January or whatever. We're hoping it's us that's put him in that position. But I think Jack Ross is a man with a plan. And I just don't want it to be us. That he fulfills his next, the next kind of boost to his CV, because they were 3rd last season. They're looking to be the 3rd force. They're in a bad place just now. They've got enough kind of mitigating circumstances to blame it on with their kind of COVID conspiracies and what have you. But I'm actually glad
that was obviously our fault.
Exactly, obviously. That's where the sense of humour, making chippy comments, goes out the window. Suddenly, it's a big conspiracy. But I feel you're absolutely right. If we make it about us tomorrow night, just go out there and enjoy ourselves. And just I'm interested to see. I think hopefully Steve Davis is maybe back, and that's how we're going to kind of try and compensate for the problem, because Hibs won't launch it on the top of us. They carry the ball to that problem area. We've got Nisbet and Boyle were working us on the ground at Hampden in that position between our fullbacks and our centre halves. So I think when we get Stephen Davis back, he's refreshed, and we've got that kind of safety net back, and we can just hit them in the break with some players we have just now up front who are hitting real lovely form again, and they're irresistible when they're up for it.
Yeah, hopefully they're up for it, and hopefully we'll get the result that we want and deserve. And I'm looking forward to it. So a big thanks to Eck for his contribution tonight. Great stuff from him as always. Remember, the game's on tomorrow night. Is it
7:45, yeah.
7:45. Because I need to mind, because I need to drop the car off for the wife that I work, so I can have a couple of beers.
You've got it, really. I mean,
it's your prerogative. It's mandatory.
It's the Thompson's tea. Don't give us it. It's not a couple of pints you're after. It's a couple of cups of Thompson's.
No, don't do Thompson's when the Rangers are on, unless it's a Sunday morning. I'll have Thompson's. Any other time, it's more the.
I'm on the decaf after 6 anyway. It's just decaf like that. I'll be up to 2 a.m.
Well, remember, on tomorrow, 7:45, and we'll cover that game on. We'll have a show out on Friday to preview the Dundee game. We'll cover the Hibs game then. But we're live tonight, guys. But remember, the pod will be available to download and stream on a variety of platforms from early tomorrow, including Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, Spotify, all your usual places. As I said, a big thanks to Eck for his contributions. Get yourself onto the Gersnet forums in the meantime between now and the next time we're on at www.gersnet.co.uk.